much for joining me. I hope you're doing well. My name is Tracy, and this is a DIY upcycling channel where we take pre-owned items and turn them into one-of-a-kind, unique purses, clothing, and accessories. Now, I sold for many, many years. I don't sell anymore, just do these tutorials. But back when I sold, I got a lot of requests for people asking me to do tutorials. So here I am. Today, I want to make my dream sort of romantic log and look duster. It's going to be cozy. We will be doing big floral patchwork, big slouchy pockets, tea dyeing, and I am starting with this robe. I've had this for many, many years. It's soft and it's cotton, long sleeve. That will be the beginning of the project, and I'll show you what I do. Now, my robe has kind of this high collar, and I don't want that because I'm going to be doing a ruffle around the neckline and down the front. So I am going to just cut a chunk of this off. Here's a seam that goes all the way around to the other side. I am going to cut that off just below that seam line. Okay, now I have that cut off, and you see this comes at a curve here and then kind of a sharp point. Well, I want it to be more curved. I don't want that sharp point. So I'm just going to line up the front together here. Here's my collar I cut, and I am just going to take my scissors and just kind of round that corner there. Next, what I want to do is I have some belt loops here. I don't want those. So I am going to cut them off on both sides. And I also have a pocket on each side. And I am going to create my own pockets. So I am going to cut this off. Now you can seam rip yours if you want, but this will be covered with patches anyway. So I'm just making it easy and cutting it off. Here's a sleeve. I will be sewing patches on that as well. And it's really hard to sew on sleeves. So I am going to seam rip open the seam that's at the bottom of the sleeve here, all the way up towards the top, but I will stop 1 inch below that cross seam that goes here. So I'll stop 1 inch before that. Okay, so now that I have my robe prepped, I went to my stash of fabrics and I tried to find as many large print florals as I could. When I'm at the thrift store, I do a lot of floral patchwork and floral appliques. So when I run across something at the thrift store like this is a flannel sheet and just gorgeous. I didn't have a plan for it, but I knew I would use it. Now I have, this is a curtain. Another curtain, table runner. This isn't a large pattern. I may or may not use that. And these curtains, I just use these on another project. So these are what I have to work with. Okay, I want to talk about these for a second. Now, I wanted the floral patches, but I also wanted some big bird patches. Now, if you do appliques and you look for florals and birds, you know they're kind of hard to find. These are pillow covers from Amazon. Now, this one is double-sided and it's linen, so it will tea stain nice. This was $9.99, free shipping. So each one is $5, which is kind of a small price to pay for such a dramatic accent on the duster, I feel. Now, this was a set of 2. They are one-sided, and they're a cotton linen blend, so they'll tea stain nice, potentially. And this was $12.99 free shipping, so that makes it about $6.50 per bird. Okay, so I am just going to start cutting out big rectangles and squares to start with. I am not going to overthink my first cut. It would take forever if I did that. So I'm just going to cut out quite a few and then I'll fine tune it. Now I have this beautiful curtain. I think it's old. The tag, it's so faded you can't even read it anymore. And why I wanted to read that is I'm not sure this is a natural fabric. It doesn't feel like it. And the tea staining will only really dye natural fabrics. So I'm taking a risk here. These patches, maybe I'll love it if these don't dye. Maybe these will be light, some others will be dark, but this is what I have. So this is what I'm going to use. I'm cutting up a robe right now. I am not measuring. I am not using a yardstick or anything to draw straight lines. This boho login look is not meant to be perfect tailoring. For me, it's meant to be sort of mysterious, and old and frayed looking. Like, where did she get that? Did she go up to her grandma's attic and pull it out of a trunk? That's the kind of look I'm going for. But I went pretty even sides. I'm going to be a little careful. Okay, so on the bird pillow covers, I want it to be a pretty big patch, but I don't want a gob of plain fabric. So I'm just cutting some of this off so that we still have a lot of pattern right there without so much of this off-white. I have a lot of patches cut out and it's time to start pinning and sewing them onto my duster. But the first thing I want to do is work on the sleeves a little bit. So these are super long on me and I don't want to cut them and hem them because I want a chunky, cute cuff. But when I roll this up, what's going to happen? It's going to be white on the underside, right? And not look cute, I don't think. So what I want to do is sew some patches on the underneath side so that when I roll it, either once or twice, it will match the rest of the duster. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I opened the sleeve up. This is the underside. And I'm going to start with one patch at a time. I think I'll do two. Now, I like this one. It is about 10 inches tall. It'll give me plenty of room to double cuff my sleeve if I want to. Now, this is where we seamed ripped. It's kind of folded there. I'm opening that up and I'm going to line it up with the edge and I'm going to line it up with the bottom and pin that on. Okay, now I got the floral all pinned, or the pink flowers, and I'm going to use sort of this tapestry one for the second, and that will bring me to the other end of the sleeve. And I had to remove the pins from this. I had that pinned on because I'm going to overlap it a little. If you have to do that, you have to do that. Sometimes you can butt it up right next to it and that'll work. Sometimes you'll have to overlap. You just have to feel out your own fabrics in your own garment and see what works for you. Okay, I have the patches pinned on the inside of the sleeves, and now I'm just going to sew it. And I plan on pretty much using a straight stitch on this whole thing, except for maybe the gimp. So just assume I'm using a straight stitch unless I say otherwise. And I am just going to stay close to the edge with a gold colored thread because I think that'll match my tea staining, and go around each patch. Okay, so I sort of rolled the sleeve up. So much cuter, right? It's still seam ripped open, so it's hard to really make that cuff. This one will be so much cuter. Okay. So what I've begun to do is to place, I'm using all four birds, the double-sided one and then the two other pillow covers. So I put one here and I just stuck a couple pins in. When I get things placed where I want. I just put a couple pins and then I take it off, lay it out on my table, and pin it more securely before I sew. So that's pretty much how I'll do all the patches. So I put a bird on this arm. I put a bird down here at the bottom. And the biggest piece I put on the back right here. Now I'll get those pinned, and then let me move you up a little bit. And then I'm going to sew around the edges, just like all the other patches we'll be doing and what we did on the sleeve. Stay close to the edge. In case you're thinking about maybe getting these pillow covers, I just wanted, this double-sided pillowcase is a little stiff. I'd do it over again and still get it. Now, the pair of pillows, that one's a lot softer. Okay, so now my birds are all sewn. And what I'm going to do now, I am just going to take my stack of squares and rectangles, lay them out on my table, and just look and see what I want. I'll probably start with the biggest patches first, and I will pin maybe 3 or 4 on at a time and then sew. I don't want to fill this whole thing up and have all those pins poking me everywhere. So that's what I'll do. It'll be like a little puzzle, just piecing these all together. Okay, all the patches are sewn on. It took about 7 hours. I turned it inside out, and now we can sew those sleeves back shut. Okay, this is why I left an inch where I ended seam ripping and this seam, because it'll be nice and easy to put into the machine now and just cruise all the way down. I am going to stick a few pins in this and use my largest zigzag stitch and get that sewn shut. I've decided I want to do a loop and button closure. So I tried it on and just kind of played with it to see where I would want that. So I stuck a pin where I want the loop, and it will protrude outside this piece of fabric, and the button will be about there. Okay, so I had this in my stash. I am going to make my loop out of this. It says it's 1/8 of an inch, and it's nylon and polyurethane. I liked it because it was a neutral color. I cut off a piece that's 3.5 inches long, and it will be sewn, here's my pin, on the outside facing in, just like this. Now, how do I know this will fit my button? I don't. I am using a size that I think I'll like, and I have a whole tub of buttons to choose from. I am not going to bother trying to measure, is this going to fit my button? No, I make this and then I choose a button that will fit it. Way quicker and easier. So what I'll do is go to my machine. I'll move my pin, of course. I'll lay this down, doubled up right there, and I'll just go over it a few times with a zigzag stitch so that it's nice and durable, because it will be functional. And I'm doing it now because I will be sewing lace all along here, and all that stitching will be hidden. Okay, now I just need to sew the button. I put it back on my mannequin, kind of lined things up, make sure it was even at the bottom if I put the button here, and made a black dot. And so I chose this button. It's fairly simple, but it does have a little interest. I don't want this to be, this was the other one I thought of, this kind of bronzy. You know, that just screams button. I want it to be a little more subtle. It's not about the button here. Sometimes it is. Now what I want to do is make some big slouchy fun pockets. Now these would be really cute on a duster, a prairie dress, some bloomers, a tunic, a smock. I've gotten a few requests actually to make these, and the most recent request was from Valerie, and what she wants to use these pockets for is to sew them on an apron and go collect eggs from her chickens and have big pockets to put them into. I just love that. I have searched the internet. I couldn't find any tutorials on how to make these, and I didn't know how to make them. So I've been experimenting. I did 3 prototypes, and I think I came up with a really fun pocket that gave me the look that I like. So let's get to it. Okay, so this is what I'm making mine out of. This is just a curtain, and it's lightweight, not as lightweight as like a sheer would be, but pretty lightweight. The first thing I did was make a square pattern, and it's 19 by 19. Pretty simple, right? It looks huge, but the pocket won't be this big. It'll shrink up, I promise. Now, I made mine on packing paper, but wrapping paper is great for large patterns as well. Now what I want to do is just trace this twice because I want 2 pockets, and I found a cluster of flowers that I want for my pocket, and I'm just going to trace my pattern. And now I'm just cutting them out. Now what I want to do is lay my pockets face down, the right side down on my ironing board. Now this is my top. I'm going to ignore the top for now, and on all the rest, the 2 sides and the bottom, I am just going to fold it over 1/2 inch and press all the way around. Now at this point, you can sew your folds down. My fabric pressed nicely. They're holding their shape, so I'm not even going to sew that down. Now, at the top, what I want to do is fold over 1 inch and press. And then I'm going to fold it over 1 more time, 1 inch, and press that. Now here's my 1 inch double folded. I am going to go to my machine, and I am just going to stitch it closed, and I'm going to use a straight stitch and stay close to the edge. Okay, so I went and found some spare ribbon, and I cut 2 pieces, 1 for each pocket, you know, maybe about 4 inches wider than the top here. And I'm just going to start with 1, and I'm going to stick a safety pin right at the end. Now I'm going to start, I have an open pocket right here. I'm just going to feed that ribbon through this open pocket. Okay, now I have my ribbon all the way through. I'm going to go back to my sewing machine, and I am going to put a straight stitch right across here to close that up. I want this ribbon to be secure right there. Now I can cut this little piece off. And now I want to shear the top of this. I'll let you know, I eyeball it sort of, but I'll let you know what my final width ends up being, but I need to play with it and look at it first. Okay, I scrunched mine up to about 10 inches. And now I'm going to go back to my machine and stitch over this ribbon, and then I'll have a permanent sort of pleated shearing right here. Now what I want to do is sort of pleat and shear the bottom just so that we start rounding this pocket. And this one is done. And how I did that, pretty easy. I just put the right side down, and I'm going to take my ruler And from the bottom up on both sides, I'm going to make a mark at 6 inches. Now I threaded a needle, doubled it and knotted it, pretty long piece of thread, and I am just going to baste this from this mark that I made all the way up to the other mark that I made. And my stitch lengths are just going to be about 1/2 inch long. I kind of like to do about 1/2 inch apart, 1/2 inch long. Now, I am just going to pull this and get that pleated. Now, I can't tell you exactly how much or whatever. You just had, I kind of want a shape like this. This is where your artistry comes in a little bit. You just need to kind of eyeball a nice rounded shape with some pleats. And once you get it where you think you like it, I think that looks good. I am just going to make a knot here so that I don't lose my pleating. Okay, so that's what they're looking like. Cute, right? But how the heck do you sew those on so that they're consistent and have this shape? Well, I made a pattern for that. Okay, I'm going to create a U-shaped pattern so that both my pockets will be consistent on each side, and this will be traced onto the duster with something water soluble, like Taylor's chalk or something, to sew the pocket to, the lines that we draw. It'll all make sense, I promise. Okay, so the first thing I did was make a rectangle, and it's 12 inches across and 14.25 inches tall. And then I folded it in half. Now this is the open side. I took a ruler and measured over 2.25 inches from the side and made a mark. And then I measured up 4.5 inches from the bottom and made a mark right there. Now, this will just help guide that U shape. So from this mark, you just got to kind of sketch. Just sketch down to this mark. Now from this mark, you need to sketch all the way over to the corner. So just kind of come down, make it kind of fat right here. And then when you get down here, just kind of level it out. And then cut it out. Okay, so this looks kind of messy. But what I'm doing is I put my duster on, and I just took one pin and I just put my pockets about where I think they would be. Just play with it and like, where would it be comfortable for your hand to be in? I don't want it too close to here because I will be doing lace, and that lace would cover up the pocket if I put it too close to here. Wherever you want them. Now this, when I lay it out on my table, I will fine tune this, make sure they're the same height, the same distance away from the inside here. But this, believe me, I have made things before where I thought, yeah, the pocket goes there. I almost never get it right unless I have it on, and I kind of feel out where my hands would be comfortable going into the pocket. I kind of have this sideways because it's important for me to look at this and try to get these two pockets symmetrical. Once you've decided where you want your pocket, lay your pattern down and trace around it. And you do not need to trace across the top. Okay, so I know you can't see this, but here is where I traced my pattern. And here is my pocket. Here's the top of the pocket. I'm going to put this corner right at the top of that U and put a pin. And then the other corner I will pin at the top of the U on the opposite side. And now I have these all distributed evenly, these pleats down here at the bottom, and I will pin this all the way around following my mark. Okay, a lot of pattern here, but this is the edge of my pocket that I have all pinned all the way around. Now I am just going to go to my machine, start at the top of one end, stay close to the edge with a fairly small straight stitch, and get those completely sewn on. And I will go around and do that twice because they're pockets. We want them to be extra durable. Okay, pockets are all done. Now what I want to do is just add lace trim. I have a pile here I actually got in a bag for $4 for one bag and $9 for another, just stuffed with lace. Incredible find. But anyway, a lot of these are stained and stuff, but I'm tea staining them, so it's okay. I am just cutting out approximately 3-inch tall strips of lace, and I'm trying to use the borders. You know, if they go 4 inches or 2 inches, that's just fine. They're all different shapes. So I'm going to use my handy dandy electric scissors because I just had tendonitis surgery. These are a little hard on my wrist right now. So I'm just going to start cutting lace. Okay, so I want to sew lace around the entire perimeter. I will start at the bottom corner, come up, around, back down, and all the way around the bottom. I am going to sew the lace on the collar, down the front, and at the bottom with the lace facing away from the garment. And some lace will need more pleating than others. I'm not going to do a ton of pleating, just some subtle pleating. Just maybe overlap 1/2 inch there on this one, go down a couple inches, overlap 1/2 inch, and I will go all the way around doing that, and I will use my largest zigzag stitch to get that all sewn on. Okay, all the sewing is done. And now I'm going to take it upstairs and tea stain it. A couple reasons I want to tea stain it. One, I just love the aged vintagey look that tea staining gives it. And two, it's fall as I'm filming this, and I just want it to be a darker, richer color to go more with fall. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is take a big pot. Mine is a 32 quart. I'll put a link to this in my description. It was an affordable one. And then I filled it about to here with water, a little over halfway. And then I'm just taking some table salt, putting that in there, and I'll give that a stir. Okay, I want this to come to a boil before I put my tea bags in there. So while this is coming to a boil, my duster has to be wet when I put it in here. Now it's so big that I don't want to rinse it in my sink and try to wring all that out. So I'm just going to put it in my washer on a rinse and spin, and it'll be wet and all nice and wrung out for me. Okay, my water came to a boil and I turned the burner off. And now I'm going to add my tea bags. I have black tea, and this is a 70 count. And I'll put the link, the Amazon link, that's where I got it, on Amazon. And I'm going to use all of these. And I'm going to put them in the pot and let it steep for at least 15 minutes. I'll stir it around and maybe test it with a paper towel and just see how dark it is. I may want to leave it in there longer if it's not dark enough. Okay, it's been a little over 15 minutes. And if you can see the spoon, that's what color I have right now. I'm going to stick a paper towel in there. See the difference? Okay, now I'm going to take these tea bags out. Perfect timing. My duster just got done rinsing and spinning. I'm going to stick it in. And I'll stir this often. I want to leave it in, they say at least an hour. And if you have a stubborn fabric that won't dye, you can leave it overnight even. But I don't like doing that. That's why I use lots of tea bags, so that I don't have to wait forever for just a slight coloring of the tea. So I'll come back and let you know how this is doing. Okay, it's been about an hour. This is what it's looking like. Very cute. So my pot is very heavy, so my honey is going to take it over to the sink and dump the water, the duster, everything in the sink for me. Now I'm going to rinse this in cold water until the water runs clear when I squeeze it out of the duster. Now I'm going to dump it in the washer just on a spin cycle so I don't have to manually wring this out. Now I'm going to tumble dry on low. Now it's out of the dryer. And I'm just checking for any excessive frame that I need to trim off. This one's not too bad, actually. Hey, here it is all done. Ta-da! I love it. It's so warm and cozy. Can you imagine all those layers? But it didn't get super heavy. Now, I put this dress with it. I actually have a tutorial for it. And in the tutorial, it's white. I dyed it wine, Rit dye wine color this morning so that it would work with this duster. Now I am going to try to model it for you and do some closer shots so you can see more of the details. And I thank you so much for watching.